Everybody, as I said before, this is the 2017 SAPR Connect Prevention Webinar Series. The last time that we were all together, some of you may have been with us, was in December, and then we had kind of let everybody know what our intentions were for 2017. And through feedback and a lot of our participants giving us some suggestions, we have laid out some topics for 2017 that we know that you guys wanted information for, and this is the first of those that are to come for this year. So again, welcome. I'm glad that everybody has decided to take out time regardless of where you're from. I saw some West Coasters. I saw some folks from Hawaii. I'm waiting to hear or hail anybody who's in the European area, Germany, or deployment location. We're happy to have you. At this time, I'd like to just take a moment to make sure that everybody understands the rules. What we have is a webinar chat box that's over to the right. And then we have a questions for presenter box down at the bottom. So we just ask, our two presenters are remote from our location today. So if there's anything that you specifically want to ask them, we'll collect your questions in the questions for presenter box, and then we'll address them if they don't get to your answer or your question at that moment. So we went over a little bit about the ground rules. We use the Adobe Connect audio portion, so there is no dial-up. Everybody should be able to hear what is being presented through their speakers. And if you have any questions or if you drop off, just rejoin the room. And Jessica, who is assisting me today and monitoring our chat room box, she will be able to assist you in getting back into the room and then rejoin us. So here's our agenda for today. As always, we have some learning objectives, and we are going to be having some guests from DOMI, which is the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute, and that will be Ms. Monica Ray. And then we have Mr. David Griffin, who is here from our DoD SAPRO office, who also assists with some DOMI projects that we have currently going. We will have some question and answers sessions in between as well as at the end. And then we will close out by providing you the link to our survey. And the survey is the mechanism in which you will get your DSACP credit if you need to get credit for this attending this webinar. So today we're going to learn a little bit about an overview of the roles of DOMI. We're going to learn a little bit about the DEOCS and how it can be used, tools that are available, and how to conduct some focus groups to address those concerns that are identified in those reports. So just as a quick poll question I have for everybody who has joined us, our participants today, how many of you have actually seen or read the DEOCS report for your installation? And you can just provide a quick in the webinar chat that you have or haven't. I just like to get a feel for folks in the audience if they are or are not even familiar about the DEOCS. Okay, great. Awesome. So I'm very, very encouraged to hear that. One of the concerns we had from some prior webinars was that the DEOCS, probably the report came out and maybe there weren't any issues in the SAPR arena, and so our SAPR folks never got notified, or the commander didn't see anything that needed to be raised, and usually those reports end up going nowhere, or no action is done as a result of what came out in the DEOCS. So I'm happy to see that there's some of you that are going to get some useful information. We're going to point you to some great tools that are available to you that you can get familiar with. And then hopefully amongst yourselves, you're able to provide some guidance or some experience or some things that you have encountered when you were trying to have the conversation with your commanders, or if you yourself are a commander and you want to share some experiences you had with the DEOCS report and what are some things that you did about it. All right, so for our first guest today, we have Ms. Monica Ray. She comes from DOMI. She is the Program Manager of the Research, Development, and Strategic Initiatives. She will be speaking to you today. The theme title that we have going forward is Going Beyond the DEOCS Report. So without any further delay, because we have a lot of information to cover, I would like to go ahead and turn it over to Miss Monica Ray. Monica?
Good afternoon. How is everyone? I want to begin by first asking if you can hear me. So I'll look for some responses to make sure that my connection is good to go before I begin. Wonderful. It sounds like I'm on. I'm here today to discuss with you, as Ms. Montoya said, going beyond the DEOCS report. As she indicated, I think it's a really important topic for sexual assault response coordinators or anyone who or victim advocates, in that the climate assessment measures the organizational climate, and it's supposed to be used as a preventative tool, a preventative measure. So I think experts, SMEs, who deal with all of the climate relations topics should have input in that process to ensure that commanders, leaders are doing everything that they can to ensure their organizations are healthy, their climates are healthy, and their service members are safe. So I will be here to discuss that with you today. Ms. Montoya asked a question, how many people were familiar with the DEOCS, and I saw that some people were, and some people weren't. Just would like to encourage those who are not familiar with that to just hang in there, ask as many questions as you need to. But I will try to provide a comprehensive kind of overview of the entire process. So my hope is that you leave here today feeling a little more comfortable with the DEOCS and the organizational assessment process. So I'm going to advance the slide and talk about the history of DOMI, or the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute. So DOMI's beginning was driven by a civil rights movement of the 1960s. During this period, and because of the challenges the movement presented, military leaders were convinced that race relations education was needed for every member of the armed forces. So in 1971, the Department of Defense mandated race relations training throughout the Department of Defense. And DoD Directive 1322.11 established the Defense Race Relations Institute, or DRI, which is the original name for DOMI. Today, our education and training programs are centered around human relations, equal opportunity, equal employment opportunity, and we offer several courses and seminars on these topics, which brings us to our next slide. You have a handout, a trifold, that has this information on it. I will ask that you take a look at that if you have them. If not, the information is listed here. And this slide here is depicting information that is provided, again, in one of your handouts. And as you see, it lists the courses that we provide. Our primary function at DOMI is to train equal opportunity advisors, or command climate specialists if you're in the Navy. However, we offer a variety of courses that cover a multitude of human relations topics. In addition to training and education, DOMI also advises the Department of Defense, services, and other organizations on human relations matters. We conduct research on EO, EEO, as well as other human relations topics, and serve as a clearinghouse, if you will, to monitor and disseminate research findings. This is done primarily through the courses that we teach. The research goes back to the course materials, the lessons, and also educational tools and products that are found on a site that will be discussed later by Mr. Dick Griffith. I'm here representing this part of our mission, which includes the organizational assessment and the DEOCS, which again is my topic of discussion today. I will advance. So we'll get right into it. What is an organizational assessment? What is its purpose? Organizational assessments are designed to assist leaders in maximizing the overall effectiveness of their organizations in completing their missions. We are here to help commanders, leaders in their performance of the mission, accomplishing of the mission. And this is done by identifying those things that contribute to or hinder mission accomplishment. An organizational assessment provides unit members an opportunity to provide leaders with a perspective, a unique perspective, if you will, that they may not otherwise have in identifying those things that help or hurt their organization. This is accomplished by gathering data through 4 methods: surveys, focus groups, observations, and reviews of records and reports. Data collection methods are used at the discretion of commanders or administrators, with the exception of surveys. In 2015, the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness directed that the DEOCS will be conducted for every commander within the DoD. This is also managed through the National Defense Authorization Act of 2013. And although data collection methods can be used in any order, it is highly recommended to begin a climate assessment with the DEOCS. This will allow administrators to identify concerns that can then be confirmed or refuted by the other data collection methods. And we'll take a closer look at the DEOCS. So as you look at, if you will, I'll ask that you pull out your DEOCS question factor breakout and the sample DEOCS survey. If you have that with you, it might assist you as I go through these slides. And as you look at those, you can see that the survey assesses 23 climate factors through questions that respondents answer using a 4-point scale. The climate factors gauge 4 main areas. Those are equal opportunity, equal employment opportunity, organizational effectiveness, and discrimination, sexual harassment, and sexual assault prevention. The survey usually takes about 25 minutes to complete, and a minimum of 16 personnel is needed to complete the DEOCS. This assists us in ensuring the anonymity of the survey respondents. And a total of 15 sub-breakouts are available to larger organizations. So if you have a large organization with a number of sub-directorates, if you will, we can break out your survey 15 times, 15 different ways, if that's needed. And as I said, the survey is anonymous and it can be completed with any device with internet access. So you don't have to complete the survey in your office. You can go home and use your personal computer if that is necessary. And I just lost my screen.
Hey, Monica? We're just going to take a second, 1 second here, because our screens, we're doing kind of a reset. So
Okay.
Just give me 1 second here. Let me just close that out. I don't know what happened to our original. What happened to my chat boxes? Okay, folks, just stand by one moment. We lost our chat ability here, so we're trying to figure out how we can get that back up and running. So just stand by for one moment. Okay, folks, if you'll just give me a quick validation check that you at least can see a chat box to the right-hand side, we will just work with that. Okay. Okay, Monica, I think we're going to be able to resume here. Sorry about that. We always have some kind of gremlin that attacks our system.
That's quite all right. I'm actually
So
glad.
sorry.
I'm actually glad that we had this pause because there was a point that I intended to make that I hadn't made, and that point
Okay.
is that there is always a concern for anonymity when it comes to taking the DEOCS. And we've created tools and products to try to address this. We have a new video actually on anonymity specifically that administrators can use when addressing survey respondents. And the importance of anonymity, or stressing that point, is that we need large number of respondents to accurately portray a unit. So the lower number of respondents, the less accurate of a picture we can paint for commanders or leaders. So should you be in a process of taking a survey and you don't hear anybody make mention of this product, maybe that's something that you can say to your units, or the administrator, if it's the EO, Equal Opportunity Advisor, Command and Climate Specialist, or the commander. Maybe you can remind them that this tool exists, because again, the number of respondents is really important in delivering the picture, painting the picture of if you will, of the organization, so that commanders can best address concerns that are identified. So going back to anonymity, we do ask demographic data when you begin the survey. However, we do not ask personally identifying data. And also, the survey is accessed using a password. However, those passwords are computer generated and are not traceable back to any individual. And I'll hit the why we ask demographic data as we move forward. Okay, we'll move on. And we'll start to look at the DEOCS survey itself. So if you do have that survey, you can follow along. Part 1 is you gather demographic data, as I mentioned, such as male or female, military or civilian. It'll ask race. And this is to assist, again, to assist leaders in gaining a depiction of how different demographic groups perceive how the organization operates. For example, are the policies effective? Are our practices effective? So that's part one, and we'll move on to part two. Part two of the survey measures organizational effectiveness. Assists leaders in understanding members' perceptions of the workplace and consequences of its conditions. It measures things such as communication, trust in leadership, and job satisfaction. That's part two. Part three. Part three measures items pertaining to EEO, and fair treatment. This is important because it gauges a member's perception about whether they can expect to be treated fairly in the workplace. And then you'll see in part four, here's the area that you might be particularly interested in, as it measures sexual assault prevention and response. Sexual assault within this category, sexual assault prevention and response questions measure 7 subfactors. So in the overall bubble of the sexual assault prevention and response, there are 7 subfactors, and those subfactors are perceptions of safety, which refers to members' feelings of safety from being sexually assaulted where they currently live and perform their work or their duties. That's the first. The second is chain of command support, which refers to members' perceptions of the extent to which command behaviors are targeted towards preventing sexual assault and creating an environment where members feel comfortable reporting sexual assault. The third, publicity of SAPR information, and this talks to the extent to which members perceive that SAPR-related information and resources are publicly displayed and openly communicated. The fourth item is unit reporting climate, which refers to the extent to which members perceive that the chain of command would take appropriate actions to address an unrestricted report of sexual assault, and the extent to which retaliation would occur if a sexual assault was reported. The fifth is perceived barriers to reporting sexual assault, and that refers to the type and frequency of barriers to reporting sexual assault that individuals perceive within their unit and their organization. The sixth is unit prevention climate, which refers to individuals' intentions to act if they were to observe a situation that may lead to sexual assault, bystander intervention, if you will. Restricted reporting knowledge is the last, and it measures individuals' knowledge of the restricted reporting options. So again, these items are items where you can assist an administrator of a climate assessment, and we'll discuss how throughout the rest of the webinar. Part 5 of the DEOCS measures discrimination and sexual harassment. This is different in that it measures whether individuals perceive they have personally experienced discrimination or sexual harassment within the workplace within the last 12 months. It also asks how they addressed the issue and whether or not they were satisfied with the outcome if they did address the issue. And it also identifies any barriers to reporting these incidents. Let's see. So once the survey is complete, once all respondents have completed, the survey is closed, a report is generated for the administrator and the leader to download. Important to know is that it's also shared with the leader's supervisor. And this is done to enhance accountability, if you will, to make sure that a commander or leader is completing the DEOCS and, taking any measures needed should there be concerns. And as you can see, there is a link that's listed that provides one of those tools and products that I discussed earlier, and it gives you an overview of the report. So the report elements. We briefly discussed this earlier, but one of the strengths of the report is that we use a comparison of subgroups, which may show different perceptions among different groups within a given organization. And again, those 5 elements, you see them listed at the very top: the minority and majority, the race, ethnicity, gender, rank. And again, we measure the 4 topical areas, and these areas are provided in separate sections of the report. So there's roll-up data in a report that corresponds to the 4 areas that are measured. And what do the results say? When you look at the report, what is it telling me? You will see a measurement tool that we use at the top left corner, a bell curve, if you will. On the far left of that bell curve is the bottom 20%. Is the bottom 20% range. The middle, and it's depicted in red on the report. It will be highlighted in red. The middle is 60%. Is the middle ground. We use 60%, and that's depicted in blue. And the far right shows the top 20%. At the bottom left, you will see an example of comparisons to each of the parent services. So the questions that are asked are reported and compared to the services. So if I'm an Air Force unit, I'm going to be compared to all of the Air Force units that have taken the survey and answered these questions. And to the far right, we'll break it down even further. If you're looking at this scale, higher is better on any of our scales in the report. So this one here is measuring 0 perceived barriers to sexual assault in reporting. So if you're looking at this and this is your unit, what this is telling you is that 40% of your unit members perceive 0 barriers to reporting sexual harassment or sexual assault, in your organization. And if you take a look at the number below, the service unit, you can see that that's comparable to your service average. So you're on par with what is going on in your parent service, if you will. And that's how you read these scales. And we have another scale. Move to the next slide. Here, what you're looking at, we pulled the 7 SAPR factors, and they're broken out by subgroups. And when you're looking at this screen, what you're looking for are those red items, because we discussed that's the lower 20%. Or I'm sorry, those are the scores that are not favorable, if you will, and should alert you to the idea that there might be something to look into. I don't know if you've paid attention, but throughout this briefing so far, I've used the word perceptions a lot. And I just want to remind you that that's what the survey is depicting, individuals' perceptions, which is why we discuss the additional collection methods, data collection methods. Because once you take a look at this and you identify red, so you identify something red here, that means, hey, there's something to take a look at. Now we need to go ask some questions to figure out what is driving those perceptions. Could it be that I'm misunderstanding a policy? Am I misunderstanding a practice, or is there something really that needs to be addressed? Again, looking at this, we would look at it both horizontally and vertically. If you look across, you compare the subgroups that we discussed earlier, minority versus majority. How does one group view these items versus the other? Women versus men, officers versus enlisted. So again, these are things that are going to drive you to ask questions. If we look at perceptions of safety, the first circle, you see women are in the red. They perceive more issues with perceptions of safety than do men. So when we're collecting data, when we're moving forward to ask questions, this tells you the what. It doesn't tell you the why. So in the additional collection methods, they're so important. And I don't know how many of you have seen that additional data collection methods are used. But if we're not using them, we're really not painting the most accurate picture that we can possibly paint. Because again, here we see that women are saying there's a problem where men aren't. Now we got to ask the why. Why are women viewing this different from men? And is there something that we need to do to bring those two together so everyone feels that the perceptions of safety are healthy within the organization? So again, we're looking vertically. Vertically, we're looking to see how does the overall organization feel. If we go to publicity of SAPR information, we see a number of groups within the publicity of SAPR information saying that there is an issue. So that's an overall issue within the organization. Are your reporting options posted? Are they posted in areas where people frequent? Are leaders explaining processes, procedures to their organization? Is the training, that information that individuals will need, is that published effectively? So this is how you read your scores. Okay, so what do we do next? Once you've taken a look at the report and you've analyzed it, you may again find a need for additional data collection to clarify trends that you find throughout unit members' perceptions. As we discussed, those methods include focus groups and interviews, observations, and reviews of records and reports. And we'll begin by discussing focus groups. Okay, so focus groups are conducted to clarify perceptions identified in the survey about specific concerns. Again, the survey is going to tell you the what. The additional data collection methods, specifically, I feel, in my time performing organizational assessments, focus groups. Focus groups are key in asking or telling or painting that clear picture and understanding the why, if you will. So, again, they're used to identify and understand the relationship between unit practices and survey findings, and it provides opportunities for members. And another great thing that comes out of focus groups is not just why, but can you tell me an effective measure in correcting the challenge or issue that's been identified? And again, it's from a different perspective. Leaders, are really busy, and it's really hard to get at the different levels, if you will, to really understand. And again, when you can hear it from your junior members or from your males or your females in your organization, those things that you do well, or those things that you know the unit needs work on, again, they might have some insight as to how to correct the measure. And a lot of times we find solutions, if you will, from focus groups. Okay. And again, they may be conducted at any time. It doesn't necessarily have to be a part of an organizational climate assessment. If a leader decides, okay, there's something going on, there's an issue, we're having a problem, and it's not time for us to conduct a DEOCS, or a DEOCS, if you will, because the assessment is driven by the DEOCS, a commander may direct, you know, that someone go out and do some interviews or focus groups to figure out, you know, what's going on within the organization. So there are three steps, three phases, if you will, in conducting a focus group. And the first one is to prepare. Prepare for the focus group. So what you want to do in preparing for your focus group is you want to analyze the DEOCS. And again, I'm not sure how many of your unit's administrators bring you into the fold, but I would suggest that you offer your assistance, because again, you are the SMEs as it pertains to sexual assault prevention and response. So if there are challenges that have been identified in a DEOCS that need to be delved into, who best to do that? Who best to develop questions to get to the root of the issue than the subject matter expert? So again, if you're not being recruited, I would advise that you offer your assistance. And again, you'd have to analyze the DEOCS, which we talked about earlier, looking at those scales and understanding how you compare, looking at the reds and seeing who or where the problems lie, and asking questions that are going to get to the root of those issues. So again, you have to analyze your DEOCS. The next thing you have to do is determine the demographics needed. As we saw earlier, we had a population of women who felt a certain way that was different to men, and the women had the issue. So maybe I need to discuss or ask questions to specific groups. Maybe there's again, we saw the one area where there was multiple groups who felt there was a problem. I believe it was information, the publication of information. There were many groups, so you might have to have a sample of random individuals, all different types of demographics. When collecting or when identifying who it is that you're going to interview, you should make sure that you should have at least 8 to 15 members of the group. You want to make sure that your group is representative of the organization. So if your organization is heavy women, you don't want 3. You want to have enough that's going to represent. Or if it's a demographic, another demographic change, you want to make sure that that group is representative of the entire organization or the groups that have the issues. Actually, no, you want to make sure it's representative of the organization. I'm sorry, because you want to hear those people who see things from all different viewpoints. So even if I don't have a problem, you may want to hear from me, because I might tell you why there isn't really an issue when somebody else feels that there is. So again, it's just trying to paint that clear picture. Then you want to identify your questions. And again, when you're looking at those red flags or those trends that are being made as you read through the report, you want to identify questions that are going to get to the root of those issues. You want to make sure that you have open-ended questions, because you don't want people to say yes or no. Yes or no is not going to help you address the issues. You want those open-ended questions that are going to have people explain to you what it is that they feel or see or perceive, or whatever it is that's going on that's causing the trend to be presented. And some examples are, what could we do to improve our unit communication? And again, that's just going to lead someone to have a discussion. You don't, again, those yes/nos are going to shut you down. They're not going to get you the information that you're looking for. And you have to be prepared to use follow-up questions to clarify comments when needed. So someone may have, present some information that, is really not painting the picture that you need. You might need to ask some follow-on questions to get them to get to the root of the issue. And then the last thing in preparation is identifying staff. So when you're conducting a focus group, it's important, it's not as easy as it sounds, really, because there's a lot going on in that group. There's a whole bunch of group demographics that you're going to have to navigate, which we'll discuss here in a minute. So it will take a staff of people to conduct an effective focus group. You should have a moderator, a co-moderator. Maybe that person is the person who helps you with those follow-on questions, and a recorder, someone who's taking down the information that's being presented in the focus group. And then we're move to conducting the focus group. So when you conduct the focus group, you're going to open your session. You're going to introduce yourself and explain why it is that you're there. And a big part of that is to explain that a commander is really interested in identifying the issues surrounding any concerns that were brought forth in the DEOCS. I think it goes a long way, and we talked about respondent numbers, how important it is to get the highest number of respondents in a survey so that a clearer picture can be painted. A lot of times unit members feel, okay, I'm voicing my perceptions, but nothing is happening. So that's something that I've seen a lot in my time out in the field. And a way to do that is to continuously explain to people that, yes, the leader or commander is concerned with these issues, and here's why I'm here, because the commander, the leader, really does want to make those concerns, better, make those challenging areas better, if you will. So, opening up the session and then explaining confidentiality. Again, we have the anonymity feature in the DEOCS and the focus group questions. There is an element of confidentiality. We're not just going to share this information with just anyone. This is for the leader of that organization, and you should let them know that this is where this information is going. And of course, there are exceptions, if someone is reporting a crime, etc. But you just let them know that you're there to take this information to the leader so the leader can address the concerns that were raised. And you want to establish ground rules. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of group dynamics within an organization, especially if the challenge or concern that's identified touches people personally or deeply. So you're going to have to establish ground rules to help facilitate the focus group. Let them, for example, here you see letting them know that everyone's opinions matter. Someone may feel a certain thing in an organization and someone may not. They may see it quite differently and might have a tendency to try and shut that person down. You don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't happen here. Well, that individual who's making those comments may not see that or may not be exposed to that, but maybe the member who is trying to raise the issue does. So again, establishing ground rules is really important. No talking over each other. Again, if I'm taking notes, I can't hear everything that is said when 2 and 3 people are saying it. And again, you want to get as much information, as much accurate information as you can to address the issue. So then we will move on to conducting the session. You've developed those open-ended questions, and at this point you're going to ask those open-ended questions and provide an opportunity for everyone to participate. And again, I list here managing personnel dynamics. Again, I could ask a question as a moderator and have half the room discussing something, and the other half of the room there might be discussion that's nonverbal going on. So that's where the second person comes in. If my focus is on the attention of the person speaking, I might miss somebody's nonverb that suggests either that they support or refute what the person that I'm focused on is saying. And it might be important to ask a question of that individual to see, how it is that they feel about the issue that's being presented. So then we've conducted the session. We will close the session. Again, encouraging participants not to repeat the information that's said, because again, you want to be able to come back to these groups on your next DEOCS, if you will, next climate assessment. If you need to ask questions, you want them to be able to be willing participants. And again, you don't want people to worry about retribution or anything that may come because they're offering their opinions, their perceptions. And then, of course, thank the group for participating. And then the last stage, if you will, is to collate and analyze the data. So when you receive your information, you've taken your notes, you want to categorize your comments into themes. You know, again, the 23 factors that the DEOCS measures, where do these comments fall? And then when you take these comments, you know, what kind of trends what kind of picture is being painted from the information that you gathered from the focus group. And again, you take that back to your DEOCS and you look at your DEOCS to say, okay, here's the perception here. Do these focus group answer some of the issues or challenges that are raised in that DEOCS? Do they fall in the same lines? Sometimes you will find that they're completely opposite. So again, you just have to, again, identify those trends and look for, in both the DEOCS and the focus groups, and see where you can make those things, again, make the picture a little more clear for a commander. And then lastly is to report your findings. And again, when you report, making sure that level of anonymity is there. We don't want to say, this rank, this name said. You want to be able to give comments, just the comments. It was brought up that this occurred, not that this person brought up that this occurred. Because again, that anonymity, confidentiality, you want people to feel comfortable going through the process. And then we have additional data collection methods other than focus groups, such as observations. And this is management by walking around. Maybe some of you have heard that. Leaders are out walking around, observing unit members, where they work, where they live, to gain, again, another level of insight as to how the organization is functioning and performing, how the unit members are performing, and whether or not issues or challenges can be identified in those areas. And then the last is the review of records and reports. So again, here we're talking records and reports. We're talking about UCMJ actions. Who's receiving UCMJ? Who's receiving awards? These of records and reports that can show, again, refute or reject or confirm any issues or challenges that may be arising. Is there retaliation occurring? You know, this person brought up this report, and I trust my leaders because when I bring issues to light, when I brought an issue to light, I was punished, given UCMJ for something trivial that other people didn't. We can go back to the records; they're unchanging, they're hard facts, and to look at whether or not this person did this person make a complaint, and where to, and was there a UCMJ action taken, and what was the action taken for? It just, again, makes that picture a little more clear. And I'm out of time, apparently. So I will leave you with our DEOCS support information. We have a team that's available to assist 24/7. And these are the numbers they can be reached at. So typically these administrators use this number, but anyone can call with any questions that they have concerning the DEOCS or DEOCS, the DEOCS. And again, this has been my time going through the organizational assessment process and trying to show you where you can insert yourself in the process. And really and truly, it is important that you do. Because units and organizations, they have challenges. And I hear a lot of time, through our tech support that, people will call and, administrators are, hey, I have these challenges in the SAPR area, I'm not sure, what to advise my commander on. And we do provide assistance here, but you are embedded, you are where the rubber meets the road. And again, those observations, going through the organizational assessment process, you can insert yourself in that process and make a difference in this area. So I hope that you gain something from this today and hope that you can use it in your daily activities.
Great. Yes.
Ms. Montoya, thank you.
Thank you, Monica, so much, and thank you, everybody, for your patience as we experience, again, another technological gremlin. But there are a couple questions I want to redress. I'll get to the ones that are in the chat first, and then there's a couple of things that I would like to ask you, Monica, that if we can just do a couple follow-ups. So there's a question about while the results of the DEOCS is provided to the command's leadership, does our focus group report have to be provided to the command leadership as well? Or can it be limited for the commanding officer for use only? So I think that's more of a, if the commander does decide to do a focus group, does the commander set the tone and the rules and, hey, I want to report back on what you guys find? Or is that more at the local level, and then that lower level officer just gets the feedback that is for his or her own use?
I'll answer that by saying the only thing that's mandated to go to a leader's supervisor is the DEOCS. In policy, again, the NDAA, in the policy memo, the only thing that is mandated, that is reported to a leader's leader, is the DEOCS. However, having said that, some leaders might take an interest in again, what steps are taken, but for the most part, that's for the local commander. It's again to dig in deeper and to help that local commander.
And then we had one more question that SARCs have access to obtain. I think, can they obtain a copy of the DEOCS report, or do they have to rely on getting it, getting the information from the EO? So in other words, if in the SAPR section there's no concerns, the commander may never involve the SARC, but the SARC may be interested to know that there's other harmful activity or perceptions that are going on. So do you guys have any guidance in terms of that? Would a SARC be able to get the DEOCS report even if there was no SAPR related issues?
I will tell you, I don't know that I mentioned this. I trained equal opportunity advisors here at DOMI on the SAPR topic. And as a trainer, I express the importance of equal opportunity advisors bringing in SAPR sharp folks in the process. As we know, there's a continuum of harm. So yes, we have SAPR-related factors on the DEOCS. This issue, the sexual assault issue, begins well before a sexual assault occurs. So again, I always encourage EOAs to bring them in for the entire process, and that's why I think that's part of the message that I'm hoping to leave you with today, is that I would try to insert myself in every way possible, helping EOAs understand, hey, I can provide you assistance, not only with SAPR or SARC or SHARP, sexual assault issues, I couldn't get that out, sexual issues, but with those things in the continuum, the sexism, the sexual harassment, I don't know that there's nothing that mandates that. And I think it's just about having a relationship, again, with your commander, with your equal opportunity advisor, command climate specialist, or those individuals who are administrators of the organizational.
And one last question I think that I'll be able to get to before we go to our next speaker. Can SARCs and VAs attend the courses at DOME?
No, we only offer courses to, well, we do have leadership courses, and we do have plenty of online courses that anyone that those are that,
All right,
that
great.
are open to the public.
So there was a couple follow-on things I just wanted to touch on. When you were talking about the score sheet, and there was the indicator of what was read and what were some key issues in terms of perceptions. The one thing that I think is important when the commander is relaying this information and setting out a game plan to do focus groups is that there are some perceptions that are inherent to certain organizations, and there really isn't anything that the commander may be able to do. So I think that going into that, knowing that there is a perception of, say, it was chain of command support, it might just be that in that organization, the way they're structurally set up, there isn't a way to convey, or there's not a communication vehicle to convey how that support is being done. It might be something that is just in the background. In a training environment, you would get the perception that the chain of command doesn't care because there's so many other things that are going on. So I think that it's important to know that although you may be in the red on a certain perception or issue, but it might be in maybe your organization, the way it's structurally created, is that you may not be able to change that perception. But I think informing everybody up front to know, hey, I heard you, I hear your concerns, I will try to do what I can around that issue, but I may not be able to ever change it.
And then communicating that point to Joe, if you will, communicating that because of the nature of our organization, these processes or procedures are not
Right.
going to be
And then when you were talking about the
used
different
to.
focus groups, when a
Communicating,
commander is
a
deciding
lot of, you know, helps
to
in a lot of
select
these
people to
areas that we
participate,
measure
I
on the
think that setting the ground rules is important, but it's also important to know that just because it was mentioned in a focus group, it may be a one-time, very anecdotal perception or a misunderstanding of an incident, and that may not very well reflect exactly that there is an issue. And I think that's why those focus groups are so important, is it is that validation tool. I know Oscar mentioned there in our chat box that it's one of the checkpoints that, okay, there's this perception, let me do my focus group. It didn't really come up except one time. And then if I followed that up with a walk around and I didn't visibly see it, then it could just be that that was just an anomaly, and that's not really what the command climate is reflecting. So I think it's important to know that just because it comes out on the DEOCS, and even if it comes up in a focus group, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be something that you're going to take action on. So that's just something to keep in mind.
That's absolutely true. And again, I'll go back to the communication piece. That's why when you close this out, when you've completed the command climate assessment process, it's important to go back to your unit members, or for a leader, that leader, to go back to the organization and say, hey, look, here are the things that, you know, here are the concerns that were raised, and here's the things that we plan on doing to fix them, so that organization members aren't left with a feeling of no one did anything for me. Okay, well,
Okay, great.
throughout the process,
Well, thank you, Monica, so much. We have a few questions in our chat box that we may not be able to get to, but we will capture them, and I will forward them to you, Monica, so you can address. Some of them are some questions specifically about can they get the DEOCS for their state, depending on their position and whatnot. So we will forward those to you, and if anybody has any other questions, you can leave me yeah, you can just send the email to me, and I'll make sure that it gets out to Monica and her team. So at this time, thank you so much, Monica. I'll just keep you on hold just in case something else comes up. So if everybody would just take a moment to read our discussion question that we have for you, and it's just how might you use some of this information that we have presented today for your program. And I know some of you already mentioned, we're glad that we're presenting it for those that the information, and we hope that it's helpful for you all. So if you'll just take a moment and put your responses there in the chat box. And we'll just give those a few moments to populate. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Keep putting your comments there to the right. We do read them. Those are very important for us to have that feedback. So I will move on to my next question. I'm sorry, I already did. We only have this one question for you all to see how might you use this information within your program, and so we'll just let you guys populate that. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next guest speaker. Mr. Serves as our program analyst here at our office. He is retired Army Colonel, and after doing 32 years of service, yay, thank you, David, for your service, and we're glad we have you. So what he's going to talk to you a little bit about today is continuing on from what Monica, there are some additional tools and resources that are available to you, and we just want to make sure that we are facilitating the ability for you to get to those resources because they are very important, and they have specifically done measures to address the SAPR community issues that are helpful, and that is beyond the EO and the EEO stuff. They have taken dramatic steps to provide some tools that are specifically for sexual assault. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Mr. Griffiths, so hopefully he can come up on our audio here. Yep.
Okay, can everybody hear me? I hope you. I'll just kind of watch over there to the side, and thank you to Monica. I mean, I've had the opportunity to watch her present classes to the Equal Opportunity Advisors, and one of the things that she does do is she makes sure that they understand the importance of bringing SAPR personnel in whenever they're doing their DEOCS. So I would encourage you that when a DEOCS is done, that you get with your EO professional or your commander and make sure that you inject yourself into that process. And so what we want to do now is talk about some of the SAPR materials, SAPR assessment to solutions resources that are available to help address Part 4 of the DEOCS that Monica just talked about. And then we'll also go through some of the ongoing initiatives that we have with the OMI right now, to include our prevention elements briefing that's currently under development. But all of this is an effort that we've been going through over the last year with the OMI, and our goal in that relationship is to further assist commanders and SAPR professionals like you to develop those action plans to help resolve SAPR issues that are identified through the DEOCS that Monica just briefed you all on. And of course, it doesn't matter what kind of unit you have, whether it's you consider it to be a good unit or a bad unit as far as command climate. There's periodically going to be issues that pop up, and again, these resources can help you to resolve those. So over the next couple of minutes, I'll talk about that. If you have any questions, please put them in the box, and I'll answer them as we go forward. Okay, when you initially click on the DEOCS website, you're going to get a screen that looks like this. There's a sexual assault prevention and response tab along the left-hand side. It's in the white, fifth up from the bottom, that you can get to the SAPR materials at. Also in the center, circled, is the Assessment to Solutions portal that can also be accessed and can be used to develop, taking a commander from the actual assessment, developing those action plans are the solutions. And you can see that with the circles 01, 02, 03, 04. When you click on the SAPR section over there on the left that we talked about, you're going to find information on such things as the Victim Assistance Information Resources. And included in that is the Commander's Checklist for Unrestricted Reports, information on the SAFE Helpline, SARC certification, etc. These are all things, all very important things that commanders need to know. Also included on that page, you'll find the prevention strategy, climate survey, SAPM resources that are going to be very important as we move forward here in the next couple of months, the laws that apply to and policies that apply to SAPR, and other kind of SAPR news and briefings that you can use to assist commander as they develop their action plan or training throughout the year. Now, most of this information can also be found on the SAPRO website, but having it here on the DEOCS website, we found gets it to more of our customers, and we think it's a great thing. When you click Assessment to Solutions part of the web page, what this is meant to do is to assist the commander from the initiation of the DEOCS all the way to developing those action plans and solutions. And again, he's got to, he or she's got to include the command team and staff whenever they do that, and that includes you, to respond to the results of the DEOCS. When you click on the Assessment to Solutions portion of the website, you get a page with Sexual Assault Prevention and Response tab listed at the top of the page. And if you look along the top in the brown bar, fourth over from the left, that's where you can find the SAPR information that helps you with the Assessment to Solutions. And when you click on that SAPR, you get this page will pop up. And what you'll find here are things that commanders and other SAPR professionals can use, especially in the products arena and the reports arena, which are very helpful in developing your assessment to solutions. I'm going to talk about the products section a little bit now. It's probably the most helpful section, since it provides the strategies that you can use in responding to those 7 specific areas that Monica talked about in part 4 of the DEOCS. So if you see the blue area there, it addresses perceptions of safety, chain of command, support, publicity, SAPR information, which she talked about and defined a few minutes ago. But by clicking on any one of those areas, so for example, if you clicked on the perceptions to safety area, some of the recommendations that you'll get may include sensing sessions, which she talked about, involvement of the first line supervisors in the detection of what's going on within your unit, physical security measures, visits to quarters, what are you doing with your alcohol policies, how you can modify those, intervening in unchecked sexual harassment and other types of abusive behavior, and so on. Now, most of these things are things that a leadership team can probably sit around the table and think of on their own, but by using this site, many of these key strategies have already been discussed and are presented and discussed, and so that you can actually move on quickly to your action plan and get about the business of resolving the issue. Other tabs included on this particular page, and they're listed in gray, include online lessons, posters like the Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month posters that we're about to update, recommended reading lists, videos that can be used in training, and other types of web resources. Now, what we've done is we continue to expand our products that we're working on with DEOMI, and one such product is the Prevention Elements Briefing. And once it's completed, this Prevention Elements Briefing will be a training tool that can assist members of the leadership team with understanding the prevention elements and their connectivity to one another. Similar to the DEOCS, we're working on including recommendations for the command team and staff on how to adapt each of the 10 elements into their unit's prevention strategy. We also do further coordination with DEOMI. DoD SAPRO does facilitate a 4-hour SAPR lesson with DEOMI's leadership team awareness seminar about every 2 months, and I saw some of the comments on the right mentioning that is a course that is available to SAPR professionals if you want to go.
Thought we lost you.
It's generally they generally have GS 14 and 15, but I know they're also doing courses for more junior folks as well. So keep your eye open for that.
Are you finished?
We use the LTAS.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was waiting for you to advance to the next slide.
To have the class read the Tactical Commanders.
That's okay. That's all right. All right. So, thank you, David, so much for that information. I just wanted to open it up to our participants here. If you guys had any questions for Mr. Griffith in terms of the assessment to solutions and some of the resources that are available, we are happy to take any questions on email here up at SAPRO about some of the efforts that we've been working with DEOMI in terms of getting some of this information available. And the DEOMI website reaches an entirely different group of individuals, but in the big picture, in the big strategic picture, all of these groups need to be collaborating and talking together so that we're no longer just building tools just for our specific arena, which is the SAPR arena, but we also know how important it is to bring in some of those other perspectives together. So if you guys have any other questions, you can just shoot them over to us after this. And just a discussion question for you all in terms of the DEOMI Assessment to Solutions site. How many of you were already aware of this resource that was available there? And you can just use the chat box over to the right to let me know if you guys have actually seen it. And if it's been a while since you've seen it, I urge you to go back there and check out the site today, because we have had significant improvements placed on there for your use.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Isaiah, for that. We do have our new theme, and we've got a couple of help tickets in there with the DEOMI folks to get all their website information uploaded with the 2017 SAPM stuff. There'll be a poster coming out soon, so just stay tuned and bear with us while we get some of those things uploaded and updated on the site. Darcy had a question about how can we encourage collaboration at the local level, and you were not aware of the DEOMI connection. Encouraging leadership to allow or to foster the climate to allow you to collaborate with some of the other helping agencies, or even just with your EEOs and your EOs or MEOs that are on installation. Basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to just convince the folks what is the benefit of collaborating. You have common risk and protective factors. You have common problems that stem from some of the same root causes. So that's your selling point to your commanders or to your leadership, to allow some cross collaboration with some of the organizations. There is a mutual benefit when you can address an audience in a training environment or in a all hands, and you're able to address root causes because you all have a stake in that outcome. You all want to have a better climate. So I think that that's really your selling point in terms of encouraging more collaboration. You're not taking over someone's mission. You're not trying to take over something that they're responsible for, but you certainly could leverage each other's resources. And I think any commander would look to having efficiencies and more effective audience participation than if you just stuck with you conducting your specific mission or your training or your all hands. So let me see if there is any other questions. Okay. I see some of you used to be prior EO, so you have a lot of experience, and I just encourage you to get with your colleagues and share that knowledge and information that you have. All right. So the last discussion question I have for you all is just give us some quick thoughts about all the material that was presented today. Give us, any kind of idea of how might you use this information. This webinar is recorded. I've already had a couple of requests to say how can we get the recording so that we can rebroadcast it as part of a training event later. I'm happy to share that with you. I will have the recorded session available probably within about 2 weeks time frame. There's a little bit of science that has to happen for that. So I try to get the recorded session posted as well as all the materials. If you didn't get them downloaded in our files box down below, happy to share that with everybody after the fact. It is a lot of attachments, but it was samples that are available either through this or you can go to the DOMI site, the links that we gave you earlier, and those very same documents are available there. Okay, great. I'm happy to hear some of you are going to visit the site right now, but wait till we're done with the webinar and then you can go. But yes, definitely, I encourage you guys to visit there. Just like we, any of the resources that we have, they're not for our edification, it's for you all. And so by having you visit those websites, it certainly gives you the opportunity to look at what's there, tell us what's missing, give us some feedback on what you'd like to see. If there's something more helpful that you would like for us to try and have for you, we'll do what we can. So at this time, I'd like to just, you guys can continue to put your comments in the chat box there. I'm just going to do a little bit of wrap-up stuff here and admin checkout. So today we heard from Miss Monica Ray. We thank her for hailing from Florida, and we've got Mr. David Griffin, who was remote today, so he also was hailing from Florida, and so we're thankful that they were able to participate from the remote location and provide this information to you all. So always, SAPR Connect is our primary prevention resource tool that we provide for you all. I give this information at the end of these webinars just in case, so if you want to pass the information on to others and share, I encourage you to just give them the link and they can follow the steps and join and participate just the same. This is where our webinar information is hosted. This is where our announcements are hosted for future events, as well as some other helpful information that is going to help you with your prevention programs. So I see, Pat, your comment there is, my head is full of ideas. Well, I'm glad. I hope that we can get some credit for stirring some of the brainwaves there in terms of what you may or may not be able to do in your specific program. Very encouraging. Thank you. Okay, so lastly, just want to remind you all, on our website, the sapr.mil, we do have a SAPM page. This is what the floating banner looks like. But what I want to direct you to is if you click on this SAPM tab up at the top, it'll take you directly into the site to the SAPM page, and that is where information will start to be populated. Right now you'll see the current theme and the field guidance. Forthcoming will be poster and some other SAPM products that you'll be able to download and use them not only for SAP, have some evergreen stuff that can be used throughout the year as we go forward with our message of protecting our people protects our mission. And so that kind of encompasses all of the thoughts and the ideas of us moving to a very positive command climate and ensuring that our mission is able to move forward because our people are able to be safe and have a work environment that fosters that. So lastly, the most important thing for those of you that need DSACP credit, this is the SurveyMonkey link out for a few minutes, so you can copy and paste it. I encourage you to take the survey. This is the only mechanism by which you will receive a certificate. I will leave the survey open until March 10th, so that gives you plenty of time to get to it. And if you have any questions or if there's a problem with the link, just please let me know, and we'll make sure we try to work through that. For the most part, most people try to complete the survey as quickly as possible, close to the webinar date, because there is some questions in there that are about the actual content and you may not remember. So I'll leave this open and I'm going to go offline. I just thank everybody for joining us today. We look forward to the next session, which will be in April. During SAPM month, we'll have probably multiple session times because in SAPM we like to cater to all our different communities, and we will be specifically talking about some strategic plan and prevention plan of action stuff. So stay tuned, and we will make sure we get some information out to everybody so that they can attend one or all the sessions that are going to be available. So thank you all very much.